Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of What Do You Call It with your host, GB. And the guy that I'm interviewing today, well, I actually know him. So this is going to be more of a chat, really, more of a catch up. So this is going to be good. And he's actually in the same time zone as me, which makes a change. So happy days, really. Can't go wrong there. So my guest today is someone I actually know in real life, and I consider him a good lad. He's currently a Twitch streamer, a YouTuber with 15,000 subs. He's known for his football manager videos. He also wrestles for Reach Wrestling. He is Omega Luke. How you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm good, mate. Thank you very much for having me on.
No worries, man. I just wanted to return the favor because you actually had me on your show a few years ago doing fantasy booking. So,
Yeah.
and I really enjoyed that. So I just want to sort of basically have a little chat with you, a little catch up. And a lot of has actually happened for you in the pandemic. You made your wrestling debut for Reach Wrestling in a pandemic. So can we just basically have a little discussion about that? Because how many wrestlers can actually say they've done that? But you did. So how did you get into wrestling first?
So I had a wrestling podcast, like you kind of alluded to there, and when that kind of ended, it was weird. As soon as that ended, that's when I started actually training. It was around about the same time that I started training. So I think it was a week between it that I had my last ever episode to the week that I actually went to the first training session in 2019, September time, I think, roughly. So just going on from that, obviously the pandemic first hit in February/March. February was my last training session. So I went like 4 or 5 months without nothing again until August, which was really annoying because around about February time, we planned a show in July where I was going to make my debut, and they sold about 600 tickets. It was going to be amazing. And yeah, I was really looking forward to it, and I was ready. I was in the best shape wrestling wise I've ever been in. And then we had like 4 months of no training. I had a baby and put on like 2 stone. So when we eventually came back, it was a bit of a wake up call that, you know, I needed to rethink, did I really want to do it? Did I really want to go through with it? And I thought, well, I don't want to put all of that training I had beforehand to waste. So I worked hard again to not exactly lose the weight, but to get in shape for wrestling. I think there's a difference. I think people can look skinny and toned, but you can't go into a wrestling ring unless you're like physically in the mold for that and have been training for that and in that regard. So in November time is when I finally made my debut. So it was a long time coming. It was definitely not what I was expecting it to be, with no fans or anything like that. But still, I've made my debut now, and I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, you got there in the end, man. Just before we do talk about the match, I actually want to go back to essentially your podcast, the wrestling one. And I just want to know what made you stop doing it. Was that because of the wrestling school, or did you just sort of want to focus on one thing, or were you not enjoying it, or just, what's the reason?
It's a combination of quite a lot of things there, to be honest, because I did stop enjoying it for a long time. I found it very difficult to carry on doing wrestling content because I started my football manager stuff around about the same time, and that was really taken off. And I think the trouble is, like, my wrestling content, as much as I love doing it to begin with, and there was a very small audience that enjoyed what I was doing, at the same time, my football manager stuff was growing so big, it almost was like, it's become very tedious doing this when my football manager stuff is a game that I enjoy playing. I stopped enjoying watching wrestling as much. And I think it was a combination of a few things. And I think I changed to a network instead of doing my own stuff. And the network was taken away. The guy who was running it basically got in a massive Twitter war with someone and then just decided to just pull everything. So I was kind of left without a home for my podcast. It was either start off again with my own feed, or I just stopped doing it. And in the end, I just thought, I'm not enjoying it. It's perfect time for me to really come away from it and just continue doing my football manager stuff instead.
Oh, okay, cool, man. I didn't know there was a lot more to it. I just thought it was just, okay, I'm just going to stick with the wrestling now, and I'm just going to move on to the Football Manager. So I didn't realize there was a bit more to it. So, and I did enjoy it. For
Yeah.
those that are listening that only may know you for your Football Manager content, the rest of the stuff is really good, and that's how we know each other. Because I appeared on Simon Miller's podcast, and I was just doing a bit of fantasy booking at the end with Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. Roman Reigns turning heel. Guess who predicts the future, by the way? Fucking this guy. And sorry, just being a mark, really. But anyway, so you actually reached out to me, and then you said, "Oh, yeah, hey, mate, I've listened to you, and I really enjoyed what you did. So I've got this show, and I'd like you to come on and talk, basically some fantasy booking." And I was like, "Yeah, man, definitely." And I really appreciate that you reached out to me. Not only just give me a compliment, but you actually wanted me on your show. And I appeared a few times, and one of them was like Velveteen Dream. It was a really, really good fun angle, and I really enjoyed it. I actually listened to one of them back.
Really?
Velveteen Dream one has not really aged well because what's being accused, but anyway. But I listened to one of them back. Yeah, it was, and I'm like cursing out your mate because he beat me, but I was doing like the Young Bucks and Tyler Bate. That was it.
All right, yeah.
Not Tyler Bate. What's it? Tyler Breeze, sorry. And the
Tyler
Super
Breeze,
Cups,
yeah.
and I made a graphic for everything. But he was like, "Mate, I loved it, but you broke the rules." I was like, oh, "Fuck's sake!"
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
I remember actually listening to your podcast with Simon Miller. Me and the lads were driving up to a wrestling show. Can't remember what show it was. I think we went to watch the Rev Pro New Japan show up in London in 2018 or 19. I can't remember when it was, but 18 it was. And on the way up there, we listened to Simon Miller's podcast with you on it. And I had just started my podcast at that point, and the lads were like, "Oh, you need to get this guy on." I was like, "Fuck yeah, I need to." And I remember just like searching on Simon Miller's on his Facebook page, and you had wrote on there, and I was like, "Bang, found him! Right, let's give him a message."
Yeah, it was good, man. Was you driving with Matt and Nev, by the way?
Matt and Mason, Matt and Adam Mason at the time. Yeah, Nev wasn't there at the time, but yeah.
Yeah, Matt. I really like Matt. I know him for you as well, and he loves his Funko Pops and Bret Hart. But no, he's a good lad. Someone I would occasionally speak to as well. But big up to him if he probably won't listen to this. But but anyway,
he doesn't watch anything or listen to anything I ever do. So
does he not?
Probably not. No.
He won't retweet us then. But so tell me, Luke. So how did you come up with Omega, Luke?
So I kind of like come off wrestling for about 4 or 5 years for quite a long time. And then I remember just like going on YouTube one day, and when like you just get like a random recommendation of something that you've never typed in or anything like that whatsoever. And it was a What Culture video, and it was Simon Miller as well. And he was talking about the best ever match that's ever happened. Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada.
Yeah.
And it was a video that was like 5 months old at the time as well, because it was like 5 months ago that it happened in the January. And I was just listening to it, and I was just watching the video, and I thought, I've never heard of either of these two wrestlers. Like I knew there was wrestling in Japan, but I didn't know that there was like non-Japanese wrestlers there as well, so that I could actually understand their promos and understand storylines and stuff a little bit more. So I got a little bit curious because of it, and from just listening to what he was saying about the match, I thought I just need to watch this match. I need just to see what's the hype about it. And I watched it back and just fell in love with Kenny Omega, fell in love with the Bullet Club, and then fell in love with wrestling again, and more importantly, like independent wrestling away from WWE's Raw and SmackDown, because that's, for me, I just felt like I was past that, and I still am now. It doesn't hook me still. I can't get into the storylines and stuff. I come in and out of it. I struggle to keep up with stuff, but things like New Japan and NXT and like this time last year, well, about 18 months ago when British wrestling was hot. I really enjoyed that kind of stuff. And Kenny Omega was just like the person I then just like Googled and watched so many YouTube videos and watched so many matches back. So when I was coming up with a name, I couldn't really think of something that flowed well. I was trying to think of stuff with my initials and stuff like that, and I just couldn't think of anything. And I wanted it to be based around my name, just in case I ever went away from wrestling. And then I just come up with like Luke Omega. That doesn't sound right, but Omega Luke flows a little bit more. So yeah, long story, but yeah, that's how it come up with it.
No, it's a good story, man. I kind of thought it may have been Kenny Omega, but the one thing I
Yeah,
do want to know is the owl. Because I
yeah.
remember like when I was doing artwork for one of the fancy booking shows, and I just remember like the logo having an owl in it, and you had a picture as well. Why is an owl so important to you?
It's my favorite animal, and I've just always it's always been the case.
Mm.
Like it's on my logo, my hat, and everything. Like, like a proper
Available
loser.
to buy now, by the way. I'll put the link down there. Don't worry.
It is, yeah. I've also got a big owl tattoo on my leg. Like I've gone to the owl sanctuaries a couple of times. I just find them very mysterious and like very interesting. It is just my favorite animal, and I just think I've kept it ever since my first logo had an owl on it. I wanted the owl on it, and I've just kept the owl ever since. And I will always keep the owl now because it's also like my viewers. They'll say, I never tell them to, but they'll say like, "Oh, we follow the owl" and stuff like that. Meaning, or whatever I do, they'll watch and stuff. And I just kept it, to be honest. I quite like it, and I used to put
Works.
it in
It
like,
does work.
yeah, I used to put like emotes to it in my tweets. And I don't do that anymore, but yeah, I just used to just stick with it.
No, that's cool, man. I think it works. And obviously, Omega Luke is now, become a brand for you, isn't it? In a
Yeah,
way. And I
absolutely.
just want to know as well, because we did talk about your wrestling debut, but I actually want to talk about the match itself because I actually watched
Yeah,
it and I gave you feedback and I really liked it and I liked your attire. Was that inspired by Pete Dunne? Was that, by the way?
very much so. And for the fact that my figure is not the best, so it kind of hides the creases that I would have had if I'd just come out wearing pants. So yeah,
And you was like cutting promos as well. And I like the fact it felt like it was you. You wasn't just going 180
yeah,
and just trying to be someone else. And I think that's some of the best gimmicks in wrestling have been sort of someone being themselves, but enhanced a bit, turn up the notch. I just want to know
exactly
what's
that.
the match
Yeah.
itself, what's the feedback like that you received from your colleagues, from your mates, and from your friends, your family, sorry.
Yeah, so yeah, it's kind of all of it's been fairly positive.
Mhm.
There's been like little critiques, which, to be honest, when I've watched the match back, like I see myself. Um, the main positives are the promo and character work because I've always felt like that will be my strongest point because
Yeah.
I know I'm good. I know I'm a good talker. I can speak on a microphone and I'm quite good with like improv. If somebody tries ripping me about something, then I know I'm fairly decent at coming back with a comeback
Yeah.
at that in like a kind of argument. So I think promos and stuff is always going to be my strong point.
Mhm.
And like you mentioned there, the character work when the Reach promoters wanted me to do the same character as my YouTube persona, for
Mhm.
instance, in the wrestling ring, just enhanced and just be a bit cocky and a bit obnoxious, then it was perfect in that regards that I want to have the microphone, I want to have the camera on me. So
Mhm. And
character
you
work,
even wrestled with the hat
everyone
on and the
was
jacket.
happy with. Yeah,
I
the
did
hat and
like that.
jacket
I was
stayed
like,
on. It was like when we were planning the match out, it was almost like, how long can you keep the attire on? And I said, what do you mean the jacket? They went, and the hat. I went, what do you reckon I could take bumps of it? It was strap it as hard as you can to your head, and we'll see how long you can keep on. It got to the point I had to take it off because I was like, it's not coming off. I took like 5 bumps of it, and I thought I'm gonna have to take it off in a minute. So I ended up like taking it off, putting it on Matey, and just hitting him with it. I'm just like, I've got to take it off because I'm gonna get really sweaty and really bad. But yeah, and I think the bad things, like I watched that match. I can't watch that match back now because of how bad I was. Like I've had a match since, and it was just so much better, and I felt more comfortable
mm,
in the ring, and I took more control in the second match. And whereas the first match, like it was a blur when it was happening. And it got to one point in the match where I was like, I have no idea what point of the match we're at. And
bloody
I
hell.
looked down at my opponent and he looked up and said, what's next? And I was like, oh no, like this
Oh
is
no, not
not a
during the
good sign.
match.
Yeah, it's not a good sign. I mean, we kind of rescued it,
Mm,
but when I watch it back, I can see exactly that point.
mm,
Whereas in the second match I had, it just flowed so much easier. Like we both of us remembered our spots really well, and I watched that match back, and I'm proud of it.
yeah.
I watched the first match back, and I'm going for a first match. I'm happy with it. but I never really want to watch that match back again, to be honest. And that was, there's a few wrestlers who have asked for feedback, because that's important to do so if you ever do it, who's given me some very good feedback, to be honest. And my coaches has as well, and told me that the things I need to work on and improve on. And I feel like in the training and matches since that, I have improved on that since. It's just, obviously we're in a lockdown at the minute. I haven't been able to train since then. So it's just getting back into the flow of it, I guess, when we get back to it.
Yeah, hopefully we come out of that soon, man. I mean, I think realistically we're slowly coming out of it, but I'm not getting my hopes up anymore, man. But I think that's a fair assessment as well, what you said. And I think as long as you're willing to accept criticism as well, along with being praised, then I think that will make you overall grow as a professional wrestler.
Yeah.
I think
it's important in.
Oh, sorry, mate.
I think it's quite important in every regard to take constructive criticism, even with like content and stuff, like reaching out to people who've been doing it a longer time and who you know are better than you and maybe have more experience and stuff, and just say, look, can you just spend a little bit of time, watch this and tell me how I can improve? And I think that's quite important in wrestling, in content creation, and probably in all aspects of life, like if you're at a new job and asking people stuff like that. So never be offended, I think, if people say what you're doing looks bad or you can improve on stuff. Always take it as a compliment, that they want to give you that time and they want to give you that experience.
And I think it's just something for you to work on as well. And I think, in terms of this podcast, I think obviously I've reached out to you and I've asked you about mics and, how to reach out to people as well. And I think as long as you're willing to accept that, you will improve. And I think as well with the graphics, I sent you some of the examples that I would do and then sort of, I've seen some of your work now. It's quality, mate. For the thumbnails that you use, for what I was going to ask in a moment about, your content for the Football Manager stuff. But I actually wanted to talk about as well, meeting you in person. It was only brief, but it was actually it was at Progress Chapter 95, I believe. You were with a few of your friends. I just want to know what you thought of the show and what was the match of the night for you.
Oh, so I mean, it was a long time ago now, wasn't it? But the whole event, the whole event was just amazing for me, because it was my first Progress show, and I think we couldn't have picked a first show to go to. It had a Rumble in it. I mean, that's what every wrestling fan loves, isn't it? The Royal Rumble is, you don't even have to be a wrestling fan.
A brand new title as well.
The Royal Rumble. So it had a Rumble. Exactly, for the Proteus belt. And I think that was my favorite match, because I think it's probably the perfect Royal Rumble. They had different spots in it. It had funny bits, had serious bits. It continued storylines. It created storylines. And I found that amazing. So I think that was probably my favorite match out of the night. I was a bit disappointed with the ending, because I think at the time it was the right point. I mean, obviously, definitely doesn't deserve it now, but David Starr was at that point where he probably should have took the belt off Walter.
Yeah, it was like the 12th match, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was all leading to that. Like, he had the big rise that year and kind of took over a little bit. I think he pushed the independence.
Right? And I think now everyone's burning their shirt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, after that. But I was a bit disappointed with the Eddie Dennis stuff. But obviously, in the long run, that looks fantastic, because they managed to keep it away from him. But there we go.
No, that's fair enough, mate. I think the best match for me personally was probably either the tag match. I mean, it wasn't like a 5-star match, but I enjoyed it so much, man. Mustache Mountain against CT and Matt Riddle. And Matt Riddle does the spear of the jackhammer as a dig to Goldberg. I just liked that so much. But it was a great show, man.
Right at the start.
As well, in person. So, who do you support, by the way? Before I do finally get on to the Football Manager stuff, because I think that's what most people will be tuning in for, because you're so popular with that. But I just want to know, who do you support in terms of football?
I am a Manchester United fan, unfortunately.
Have you been to Old Trafford at least?
I have, yeah. I've been there for about 4 United games and then 3 England games as well. So
Nah, that's cool, man. I just had to ask if you've been there because, I know quite so many people that support Man United. I've never even set foot in Manchester. So
Yeah,
it's refreshing to speak to a Man United fan that has at least been there.
exactly.
And Old
Yeah.
Trafford is a lovely stadium, by the way. I love it. One of the best you'll
Oh,
ever
it's
been to.
fantastic. Yeah.
Um,
Stadium tour. Even if you're not a United
hmm.
fan, stadium tour is
That's worth it, isn't
amazing,
it?
by
It's
the
really
way.
fun, man. Like I
Yeah.
love stadium tours, and I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah.
I
I'm
love being a
exactly the same.
tourist. Like even I know like your enemies, but I did one at Anfield and really enjoyed it, man. I know it's
I've done
fun
that
to
one.
rip the
Yeah, I've done that one
Scousers.
twice.
But
How
Anfield,
bad is that? I'm a Man United fan. Yeah, I've done the Anfield one twice.
yeah,
Ridiculous, isn't it?
that's fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to watch Tottenham before, and I'm an Arsenal fan, so
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'll cut that bit out. So
Yeah. Football's football, isn't it? Football's
but
football.
that's it, man. It's all a game, isn't it? Really. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the Football Manager stuff. So you've seemed to crack this fan base and this market, and you
Mm.
seem to be having some success from it. So I just want to know what is so great about the game. If you had to describe it to someone that's never played it before but likes football, what is it that attracts you so much about it?
I think it's the simulation side of it. It's more of a strategy game than an actual gameplay game. Like
Mm,
FIFA, millions of people play FIFA because they can control the players and stuff like that. But
yeah,
then it gets to the point where if you're playing against a computer, it becomes too easy, or if you're playing against people online, it becomes too hard. And
yeah,
there's not really much in between. You're either good against the computer and bad online. That's it. Whereas Football Manager, I think, has a good blend of you can play with any team you like in the world pretty much that you can think of. And every time you start that game and start a new game file, you start a new story. And
yeah,
I think that's the beauty of the game. It's more, and you can make it as difficult or as easy as you like. You can do it so you can't see any players' attributes, so you don't know how good they are until you scout them properly, or you can have it revealed at the start and stuff like that. And there's ways that you can make the game easier if you really need to. You can download people's tactics. You can set responsibilities for everyone else to do it, or you can take control of it all yourself and basically do what I call it the Alex Ferguson, where he basically run everything
yeah.
in the whole club. And I think that's the best thing about it. And it's a game that I've played for 20 years. Like I remember playing the first Championship Manager 98, 99, I think was the first one I ever played.
Yeah, that's going back.
Yeah, so I wasn't really like aware of what I was doing much on it, but I remember
Yeah,
playing it. And then I remember playing the first Football Manager when they bought it and rebranded it in 2005, and I've had every single one since that point. And I've always liked manager games. I've always liked simulator games, LMA Manager. I've always liked Motorsport Manager. Might not even be into motorsport, but I'll play the manager game and stuff. And there's that Total Extreme Wrestling. I've played that before
yeah. I
because it's
used
a
to play that.
simulator, and I like that kind of game. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love those kind of games, simulator games. I find them Total War and stuff like that. So it's right up my wheelhouse, to be honest. So when I managed to kind of strike a bit of an audience and grow a little bit, it was
Mm.
it was great for me because it's a game that I've probably put the most time in my lifetime.
Yeah, no, it does show, mate, especially with the content that you do produce and essentially how you are on social media and when you're promoting it as well. I just want to know sort of how is it that you got there where you are now? You was it FM Scouts? How did that come by? I'm not I'm
Yeah,
not very good with the terminology because I'm more of a FIFA man. As you say, like I like controlling the players, but when it comes to behind the
yeah,
scenes and stuff, I'm thick.
yeah.
But I just want to know basically how. So I'm putting myself down, but it's true. But how is it that you sort of you watched it grow, but how did you develop it?
Yeah, so it was. I had like 60 subscribers, and I was doing daily videos for about 10 people, viewers, because the 60 subscribers, majority of them were just people who come across my wrestling channel who just wanted to support me.
Mm-hmm.
So they weren't really watching my stuff, and I was getting like 9 or 10 people watching every video. And I just did like a random experiment video where I put like all the best Wonder Kids in one team and shoved them in the Premier League and just simulated it for like 5 years. And I posted the video out on a Facebook group, and some guy messaged me, some Scottish geezer messaged me. He was like running that page and was like, "Oh, I really liked your video. Would you like to start a Football Manager podcast for the page?" And I was like, "Yeah, I won't mind doing that," because he clicked on my page and seen that I was still doing the wrestling podcast.
Yeah.
at the time, and he wanted to start a page podcast for Football Manager stuff. I said, yeah, I won't mind doing that. And he goes, well, in return, there's a friend of mine is asking if I know anyone who can produce videos for his YouTube channel. So I was like, all right, okay, who's that? And he said FM Scout, and I was just like, surely not, because at the time, like FM Scout, I've been using them for like nearly 15 years, like website wise. So I
Yeah.
knew exactly who they were, and I've watched a few of their videos before, and I knew they had not. Like, surely they can find somebody to make videos for them. And as it turns out, like they never went forward with the podcast, but he still put my name forward for FM Scout, and within like a month, I was making videos for him, even though I had like less than 100 subscribers myself and been doing it for like 2 months. And that's where it just kind of kicked off, because they had such a big audience. And I was able to, I think like my third video proper banged for them and got like 50,000 views within a few days. And I was like, whoa, like I couldn't even dream of having viewership like that. And my channel just grew and grew. And I think within like 5 months, I hit 1K. And then every time then it was just like milestone after milestone. I want to hit it. I want to hit it. And it carried on from there, really.
That's good, man. And you know, you're enjoying it, and it's still early days for you, mate. To wrap this up, I just want to know what is next for not just your channel, but for Omega Nuke.
Oh, it's a good question. I'd like to make this full-time job. That's my end goal. I've made that very apparent as well. Like my viewers know that, and the best thing about a lot of my viewers is they're willing to help me get to that point. They're willing to like, people are in the chat and they say, right, come on, let's sub to Luke's Patreon, let's get into full time. It might not ever work, but it's just nice to see that people want me to be full time.
Have that support.
Exactly, awesome. Yeah. So that's going to be my goal, and I've taken some steps recently that I think in the long run will help me get there. Maybe I was a little bit too late on the draw, but I'm hoping for next year, the next year's game, that will help me propel me into that. So yeah, within the next few years, I'd like to be full time for sure, and do this full time and stream a little bit more as well. I'm doing the Streamer Showdown this weekend, which is like a big event sponsored by KFC with all the best like FM streamers in the world. So that's going to be fantastic. I think they have like
finger licking good.
Yeah, they had like 350,000 people watch the last one, so it was absolutely mental numbers. So I can't wait for that this weekend. Man.
That'd be sick.
Yeah, it's a really good, like, well-run tournament. I've been involved in a few of them, but I've only took part in one of them before. So it's nice to be back involved. But,
to get that audience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and just enjoy the occasion, really, because the first time I was in it, I was very new to streaming. So I didn't really know exactly what I was doing, but I've got a lot of plans this weekend. I want to go full wrestling persona and have like my wrestling gear on and maybe just cut a few promos on.
That'd be quite cool,
like
man.
Yeah, just make it a little bit like can't miss my stream kind of stuff, so people will tune in. So
that's
that'd
good.
be quite
good way
fun.
to plug the wrestling as well. That'd be good, man.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that should be quite good. But yeah, going forward, that's the main goal, and just keep enjoying it, not burn myself out anymore, because I think that's at one point I was trying too much and I was burning myself out, and I found a healthy balance now, I think.
That's great, man. You seem like you know what you're doing, and you know you've got a path. And once the lockdown ends, you know there's going to be more opportunities as well, and you'll be able to wrestle in front of crowds. So I'm going to end this with something I've never done before, and it's to basically I want you to pick your Premier League five-a-side team of all. It can be past or present. I know you're a United fan, so if you want to choose just Manchester United players, that's absolutely fine. But it can be anyone. You get one goalie, one defender, one defender, two midfielders, and one striker. And so let's start off with the goalkeeper. Who are you going to pick?
I think Peter Cech. Peter Cech he's so good for such a long time. Yeah, I've seen a stat today actually, which I don't know whether it was exactly true, but it was on one of these like big sports pages that he saved like 2,000 shots out of like 2,400 shots that were taken at him. And I thought, if that's true, that is really ridiculous stats. But yeah, Peter Cech, I think people forget how good he was because of how
before the
bad
head
he was in
injury as
his
well.
last.
Like he was amazing.
Yeah, amazing.
I
Amazing
don't think he
goalkeeper.
recovered.
So,
I mean, his first
yeah, I
season
think
at
Peter
Arsenal, I
Cech.
thought he was pretty good, but I still think he's got, you know, he still was okay, but he just never, for me personally, wasn't the same. So we've got Peter Cech in goal.
I agree.
Brilliant. So one defender. It can be a right back, it can be a left back, it can be centre back. This is your choice, your team, but you've got to pick to win.
I hate this really because again, I'm going to go for a Chelsea player, John Terry. I can't. The trouble is, I didn't really watch anything before like two back then, and I don't really remember anything until like 2004 onwards.
Yeah.
So I mean, John Terry was just the best. Real Ferdinand was very close. John Terry, centre back.
That's fair enough. So we've got Peter Cech and then we've got John Terry. I can't disagree, to be honest. I'm not really the biggest fan of him as a person, but as a player, one of the best defenders I've ever seen. So it's hard to argue.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not ever going to let him meet my wife. That's for sure.
Hide your wife, it's Terry. Two midfielders. So this might give you a bit more option. Who are they going to be?
Yeah. So I'm going to stay away from Lampard because I've already done two Chelsea players, so that'll be a bit unfair. I'm going to go with Steven Gerrard because although I'm a Man United fan, I can't deny Steven Gerrard is amazing and an incredible football brain, an incredible player, probably the best ever player not to win the Premier League. So I think that's a fact in my opinion. And then alongside him, I'm going to go with Paul Scholes. Paul Scholes is just on next level, unbelievable player. And the stories that I've heard about Paul Scholes as well from ex-United players and stuff is just, it's just ridiculous. He's one of the most gifted players ever. And just, I just love the way nobody heard about him, like outside of football while he was a player. And now you can get rid of him. Now that you just like, oh, it's Paul Scholes again. He's terrible at punditry.
I mean, like players
here he is again.
Like Iniesta, where they were like saying, "Oh, he's one of the best players I've ever played against." So for them to say that about Paul
they were like
Scholes,
fighting over his shirt. Yeah,
I like this team so far. So we've got Peter Cech, John Terry, Steven Gerrard, Paul Scholes, and now we've got one more player to pick, and that's a striker of your choice. Who is going to get you the goals and who's going to win you the game?
This sucks, but you're going to like this. I'm going to go Thierry Henry.
Chef's kiss.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of United players I could have gone for, like Ronaldo, obviously, but I think Premier League-wise, he wasn't at his best until he moved to Madrid. Wayne Rooney was very good, don't get me wrong, but I still think Henry was technically better. And I think, although Wayne Rooney worked harder, and occasionally, I think maybe Henry was just a little bit better class-wise.
Henry left at the right time as well. I think Rooney's last few years at Man United were kind of disappointing in a way.
I think the trouble is with Rooney as well. He never had a definitive position. He was good up front, and then all of a sudden he played in behind the striker, and he was good there. So it was like, oh, he's really good.
Yeah, and by the end, he was just getting pushed back and back. That's
exactly, and I think he never had one definitive position. Whereas Henry kind of did play off the left, but predominantly he was a striker, and he scored a lot of goals and created a lot of chances for Arsenal. So
some of the goals he scored were magnificent, like game changing in my opinion. He is probably one of my favorite players of all time. So I'm glad he chose that. So let's just wrap this up with the team that you have chosen. Omega Luke's Premier League five-a-side team. We've got Peter Cech in goal. We've got John Terry in the back. And then midfield, we've got Paul Scholes and Steven Gerrard. And up front, we've got Thierry Henry. That's a brilliant team, mate. That is excellent. I think you'll get a couple of trophies with that squad. So I want to thank you very much for coming on, Luke. For me, to have you on the show means a lot because you're basically return the favour to you. You had me in your show many years ago. And, thank you for that. And I sort of do consider you an inspiration for one of the reasons why I'm doing this. I hope you stay safe and we can meet maybe at another Progress show or even I come to a Reach Wrestling. But for now, Luke, I want you to stay safe and do your thing, mate. Thank you.
Thank you, mate. Thank you very much for having me on. You're smashing it.
Cheers, mate.